Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the MBC Survivor Star League. This is going to be the 9th MSL, and what is the Survivor Star League? It is not the actual MSL where the qualified 32 top players in the world actually compete. This is going to be the Survivor League, which means that these players are trying to fight for the next MSL that would be available to them. So this runs along the actual current season that is the legit top 32 MSL, but then there's players that are in this Survivor bracket trying to achieve the right to be in the next MSL tournament. And so the two players today that will be battling against each other is going to be ELIZA, the Estro Zerg. Starting gaming back in like around the 2003 time period, actually got second place in the 2003 first ESO Cyber Games competition. So he's been around quite a while. Actually, current day would be 28 years of age, born in 1985. Meanwhile, the younger, not quite as veteran player, it is going to be Bisu, who's newer to the scene, dropped out in the MBC 8th Survivor Star League, and now is trying to accomplish what he couldn't do during the 8th one in this 9th one that is available to him. So look at the two players. They are sitting at their respective computers, getting ready to come into this game, and it's going to be a PVZ. Now, what does that mean for the two players? This is actually going to be played on Blitz, and Blitz is a Zerg-favored map. So even if Bisu is good at playing against Zerg players, or if ELIZA's bad at playing against Protoss, there still is going to be that Zerg advantage. It's not until Blitz X that things really kind of change, because in Blitz X, which is kind of a revision map that really didn't come along until after this tournament in the GOM TV first MSL, and in that Blitz X map, there's instead of a long line cutting down the map, cutting down the third base expansions for both players in Blitz, it's actually an X with a hole in the middle for a scouting or small type unit to be able to make it through. So SCVs, probes, drones, marines, all those types of good units early on that can go for scouting are able to actually have the opportunity to without mining out the minerals at those third base locations. Another change that happens in Blitz X from the original Blitz, and now we're actually getting a look at the map here, and what they actually took out that you can barely see here because the visual is kind of difficult, is that the 12 o'clock has a double gas part of its expansion. So if you go over there, you can mine from two different extractors, which is, you know, excellently efficient. And they decided in Blitz X to remove that additional extractor. So other things to note is that from the high ground you can defend with your pylon and cannons. It can actually have a really nice reach between that both second and third base. So that's something to look forward to as a Protoss player. While we're not going to see Terran in this game, they have a lot of good siege tank positions in this map. Especially if you're trying to take that low ground island expansion at the 12 o'clock, you can actually just siege up from your main base and just lay waste to the opponent. So kind of a really hard base to take in general. So both these players are going to be going into this game very soon here, and I am very excited to be casting this. This is the first game for either player as they go into the 9th MBC Survivor Star League. And I keep saying Survivor because I really don't want people who come in here to watch the cast to misunderstand that this is the Survivor League and not the actual MSL. But still legitimate, cool indeed. And there's no actual winner of the Survivor League. It's just people who do qualify. And I think we can get a quick glance at some of the other players that are competing in this league. Just hold on one second. I will be able to bring that up. Like I said, we're just waiting for the players to give the okay to go into the game here. So, of the other players that are actually going to qualify, I'm going to give it by race distribution and team distribution because I don't want to ruin any of the results for the players in this game. But by race distribution, 5 Zerg, 5 Protoss, and 6 Terran. That's a very even ratio of players that qualify through from the Survivor League into the next MSL. So as far as team distributions go, and what we would see, I think GOM TV Season 1 is the MSL that will follow after this one. And in the team distribution, we'll have 4 CJ Entus players, 3 MBC Hero players, KTF Magicians, because that's who they were back then, 2 players from KTF, 1 player from Pantech X, 1 player from Samsung Con, 1 Lacaf OZ, that's a bit of a name change there too, and 1 SK Telecom player, 1 STX Soul player, 1 Hambit Stars player, and an OGN Sparkies is going to also have a player that will qualify through. So that's kind of a heavy-ended on the CJ Entus side as players that are going to make it through from this stage. So that's kind of cool thing to note. And if you guys didn't know, a lot of professional players take photos of themselves. It's like they do sort of like a photo op thing, or maybe they do selfies if selfies existed back then, and they actually will put the photos up next to their computer just in case people forgot what they look like in different settings. Now you have that available to you. So I always thought it was kind of a cheesy thing to do, but that's what the players decide to go for here. And there's actually a 9th MBC game Survivor League thread on Team Liquid, if you guys are not aware. And one of the star posters of Team Liquid, Live to Win. I mean, this is a throwback poster. I don't even think Live to Win posts anymore on Team Liquid. I'm going to go ahead and check that out. Well, let's see if Live to Win is still active. Looks like so. Okay, so actually active in the League of Legends forums. So it looks like Live to Win was a Brood War fan beforehand, so we will still appreciate the poster for all the work they've done. I'll post that in the chat in case you need to know here. So let's see how long until the game actually starts here. I think it should be starting soon. Alright, so we're just going to jump ahead because everybody wants to watch the games and we're running short on time. Only get an hour's worth of casting. Thank you all for listening here on the microphone. I am Bisu Dagger, and this is going to be the Bisu Hour as we watch the 2006 August 28th ELIZA versus Bisu matchup on the map Blitz. And it looks like we have both our players sitting by their computers, looking like their hands are just absolutely warm, amped up, and ready to go. ELIZA's hands are looking especially quick today. That's him on the right side. Bisu is going to be sitting positioned on the left side. And for me, I don't know, whatever reason, I feel like the left side for Bisu is always luckier than the right side. Although Bisu did beat Flash in most of his games while sitting on the right side of the booth order, but the majority of his Zerg wins come from him sitting on the left. And if you watch enough Bisu games with me, you might start to notice these sorts of weird things too. So Bisu's already got his probe split up. The worker split, so important to get that additional probe out very quickly. And both these players did queue up a 5th probe, so there are 5th workers, so there's not going to be a 4-pull coming along from ELIZA. Seems like we might have a good long one on our hands. As Blitz, it's not a necessarily large map from left to right, because it's a 2-player map. ELIZA at the top right, Bisu at the top left. And And so you know where your opponent's going to spawn, but you can't scout them out very quickly because, like I said on Blitz, there's a mineral line that goes right down the middle of where the third bases are located, and so you have to run around or do some sort of probe glitch to get across. So Bisu is actually building a pylon at his natural base. And now this is an especially wide opening to the natural, so you can't actually go for that forge expand and be completely safe from Zerglings. You have to be very, very, very careful about how you place your buildings and give the longest route possible for Lings to run around as you try and cannon up if he does go for that forge expand. So Bisu just sent his probe past a ramp that was to the left of the probe, and that's where the third expansion would be. You can see that the minerals are now revealed on that map, but he has made his probe across, reached the natural, and we'll be going in to find out that this is going to be a pull first build. So I don't even see an additional overlord. So this is a 9-pull build. He could be, it looks like ELIZA could be going very aggressive with Lings early on. After that overlord finishes up, will he produce 6 Lings out of his available larva, or is he going to go straight into drones and decide to go for a hatch? So the forge, this is a really cool thing. What he's doing is he's putting the forge between the pylon and the Vespene geyser, and then he could probably put a gateway to the right of that pylon to block off the rest of that wall, and giving only a small space between the Vespene geyser and the mineral line for Zerglings to actually make it through. These players spend so much time trying to find the absolute perfect position here to place their buildings, and will mitigate the most damage of Zerglings coming through. So we do see right away that the 9-pull pressure is apparent as the 6 Lings are going to be running across. Bisu, because he did scout that it was a 9-pull, drops 2 cannons down right away. And if you're playing the PvZ matchup, what you want to do, if you can scout your opponent on a 4-player map, sometimes you just have to blind 2 cannon, because getting that second cannon does make you safe. But if you can scout out that your opponent went 12 hatch, or even overpull, you might overpull is a little bit more dangerous, but especially if they go 12 hatch, you can get away with only putting down 1 cannon and then building a nexus. And because you have that additional 150 minerals, you're going to get that nexus down a lot quicker than you would if you have to build that second cannon. So the nexus is down, and Bisu doesn't even build a gateway. Oh, he's trying to get her face on camera. Look at that. Absolutely shy girl. And so the gateway does now finally go down, and so that's a substantial amount of time before you actually get your first unit producing facility. But it's safe. That's the way you go, and your economy is going to be very strong as a Protoss player. So while his Forge Expand is not protecting the entire of that second Nexus, Bisu is still going to be in a pretty good position with his cannon placements. And it looks like this is going to be a double expand for the Zerg player. Let's look at the natural base real quick. The mouse is right there. So the hatchery is already down inside the natural. A third coming down pretty quickly after. And so I wonder if Bisu's going to try and pressure the fact that there's a third hatchery here. And one of the easy things about that third hatchery is that it's so close to the natural that if you bring zealots over to attack the natural and they don't get any damage done, go ahead and reroute them over to that wide ramp where you can just run them up there and apply pressure on that third base. I think one of the reasons why a Zerg player might not go for expansion down towards the bottom right is if they're trying to be super aggressive, maybe go for some sort of 3 hatch Hydra build, and once to get their units to attack as quickly as possible, while the rest of the expansions on the map besides the 12 o'clock are going to remain at the bottom right towards the 5 and 7 o'clock locations. So very far away expansions. Even as a Protoss player, you might feel like it will be easier to take the third over at that towards the middle of the map. So both these players, everything's looking pretty standard so far, even as far as like meta game current day StarCraft. This is still looking pretty standard for Bisu, who's got the Stargate tech coming up, and how quickly are his Corsairs going to come out? Now the Spire is on its way also, and even if you're going for a 3-hatch Hydra bust, getting that Spire is absolutely necessary because you want to use your first 2 Scourge to come out of that initial Spire to go for scouting and to possibly pick off your the Corsairs that are scouting around. And it's not completely necessary that Scourge get the damage done. They're mostly great for that scout, and then on top of that, having the Spire, you can upgrade your carapace, which makes your overlords much more stronger. And I like this infrastructure here that Bisu has. Using more tech buildings at the front is going to allow him to be way more defensive and block any additional Zergling attacks. And a 3rd cannon laying down is going to help him be especially safe here, as there are a lot of links on the map, but he does have Zealots out too. The first Corsair, though, it's actually opting out of attacking that Overlord and sending it straight into the main base of ELIZA. As I mentioned earlier, ELIZA is a player that's been around for quite a while. Actually won a silver medal in a match or at a small-time tournament in 2002. Hasn't won an OSL or MSL, but still has been on the scene and plays for Estro at this time. Corsair is going to be able to pick off one of those Overlords, though, so that's a nice little pickup for Bisu, who's trying to get every advantage he can inside of this game. And another Overlord will go down, so 2 Overlords worth of supply is going to be eliminated from ELIZA. That's going to be a hassle, and he's actually gone, instead of for a 3-base Hydra type pressure, straight into Mutas, hoping to cripple that Corsair count and do some heavy harassment on Bisu. Now, fortunately for Bisu, he does have cannons inside of his main and natural, which means that he can defend much more effectively against these Mutas. Mutas can take down cannons pretty decently, but with the additional Corsairs here and the fact that he threw down a 2nd Stargate, it's looking more and more like this Mutatech from ELIZA was a pretty big mistake. Unless ELIZA can bring a lot of Scourge in and get some really nice collisions off, I think that the commitment to Mutas beyond this point would be a huge mistake here. Definitely, Scourge production is fine, but he needs to switch over to that Lurker and Hydra tech. But okay, we do see that the Hydralist den is down. He did produce another Muta to come in with his flock. And Muta Micro still isn't quite as popular yet, as Jaedong is the one who really popularizes the Muta stacking and Muta harassment style. But of course, I think Shark was the player who invented the Muta stacking, and has invented a couple other things too. He may have not popularized, but invented Lurker stacking too. But don't quote me on that. So Hydras are getting produced out of these 3 bases, and Bisu is actually going for a 3rd Nexus now, realizing that the pressure from ELIZA isn't that great, and he might be able to get away with this free base. He is lacking in Zealots, and it looks like the mining from this mineral position here, and a macro hatchery right next to where that mineral line is, and now it looks like the blocking line that has started off at the beginning of this map is going to be opened up, and now Hydras are going to be able to run through here. So that is a lot of Reavers to defend. In fact, one of them looks like it's kind of in a blocked position. And I actually recently learned about a really cool trick where you can use Reavers to harass. And if you want to kill off units that are far away, and you put Dragoons in front of your Reaver and then target one of your Zealots, you can take that Zealot and run into your opponent's army, and the Scarab will go off by colliding with your Zealot and getting that splash damage attack on top of your opponent. So kind of a neat little trick there. And if you want to learn more of these tricks, I am doing a Brood War Weekly completely on every trick available in the book for Brood War. I have all these things put together. Going to be nice little tutorial videos by pros themselves and not by my hand, so you can see it done to perfection. Now this is a huge amount of Hydralists that are pushing down the ramp here, but behind this, the Reavers, how much damage are going to be able to get done? And the shuttle plus the Reavers is absolutely demolishing everything. One Reaver does go down, but the Hydras are going to get pushed back. And ELIZA investing tons and tons of larvae into all these Hydralisks. And the Hydralisks are dead now. ELIZA's going to have to continue to produce more and more Hydras instead of going back into droning up into a heavier economy because the Corsair count is so high. I absolutely don't see how ELIZA is going to be able to whittle down this force. And that might be the indication here that the Zerg opponent absolutely has to win, has to be all in at this point, continue to pressure with ground units, and keep the Corsairs away from attacking the additional bases around the map. But so many Overlords are going to continue to die off, and if no more Overlords exist, then no more Hydras can be produced. Now Bisu going for that Nexus at the 12 o'clock too. He did lose his expansion down at the bottom left. It did get cleaned up, but he's going to be taking that 12, and it would be a hilarious thing if ELIZA is not able to take it out, especially when ELIZA had the Mutaforces earlier. Seems like they're pretty much non-existent. Drops aren't available, and if Overlord drops do try and happen, Bisu can defend with his Corsairs. So Bisu's put himself in a great position here, actually building his shield battery, which is a pretty cool thing too. Wants to get the shields up on those Reavers a lot quicker now, and more Corsairs are coming through. He is winning the game with a unit that cannot attack the ground. Actually, he canceled both the Corsairs. An interesting move here, as he may realize that he needs more ground forces and needs to invest in that. So 2 Reavers are going to defend, and 1 shuttle full of Reavers. It actually looks like it can move out. Shuttle speed is finished up, so he is going to be moving as fast as possible towards the location of the Zerg. Can possibly attack these drones that were pulled from the 3rd base over to the natural or the main. Meanwhile, ELIZA's trying to expand down towards the bottom at that 6 o'clock location, and here comes the giant move-in. The Hydras do defend, and he cannot stop the Hydras from attacking without D-Web. And I don't think that's an upgrade that the Corsairs are going to be going for. D-Web is an ability that if you cast on top of the units, they will not be able to attack unless they move outside of it. So, very good against against ground units, but not a very cost-effective spell. And it looks like there's tons of Hydras here, but there's no Lurkers mixed in. There's nothing to deal with these Reavers. And honestly, the best thing to do behind this is to defend and expand. ELIZA has to really out-expand his Protoss opponent here, as Bisu's going to get ready to continue to shuttle and bring more probes over to the 12 o'clock location. He doesn't have that much army. And ELIZA has to realize this right now, that taking 2 more bases would be the best way to go. And those Stairs are just kind of basically sitting that 12 o'clock location. That is a lot of Hydralisk. And is ELIZA going to try and lift Overlords here too? Still, what we haven't seen are High Templars or Dark Templars inside of this game. So no Tier 3 Gateway units going in for harassment here. That's a lot of Overlords that are catering to the Hydralisks. And so it's like there's not a lot of static defenses or Reavers inside the main base. And there's tons of Hydras that it's looking like ELIZA wants to take the risk and move his units into the top, but the Corsairs are baiting him. Here come the Reaver drops. It looks like it's going to be huge. Tons of drones are dying off here. ELIZA's not even responding, trying to focus on his attack over at the 3rd base where Bisu could have expanded. And here comes the Overlord drops, deciding to just drop right on top of the units here. There's Corsairs and Cannons at this time, and Reavers behind the natural mineral line. This is the all or nothing portion here. So finally, D-Web does come out here. Bisu realizing that he has so many Corsairs that he might as well research the ability, and the Hydralisks are not getting anything done. Huge defense here for Bisu. His Reavers are still alive using beautiful micro. There's no mining in the natural or the main base. And I think this is going to be it for ELIZA. GG. And Bisu, he wins his first Survivor League game. He does it. He does it. He is 1 step closer to advancing into the next MSL. So great game by Bisu, and unfortunately ELIZA is in a deficit as he tries to play the rest of his group stage games in this 9th MBC Survivor Star League. So thank you guys for watching this game. This is ELIZA versus Bisu on the map Blitz back in 2006, August 28th. Hang on 1 second. My stream will go off for just a minute here, and then I will boot up the next game.